How's it going? This is the first Adeline vlog. It's the official first Adeline vlog, so welcome. And we just released our first song, Tucked In Shirt. Woo! Oh yeah! I thought it would be fun to do a little behind the scenes moment and just talk a little bit about the song's creation, the inspiration, walk through some of the different versions of how it was made. And yeah, maybe you'll enjoy that. Who knows? So Tucked In Shirt is a really, really old song. It's the oldest song in our set. And the inspiration was I was working at this retail store on the Lower East Side selling hemp. And there was this guy who would come in and he was always wearing a suit. And I don't know, something about this guy, this vibe, he just really annoyed me. And it was pretty clear he worked on Wall Street. So I wrote a diss track about him. And that's what this song is. And I'll play you the earliest version of it right now, the voice memo version. Here it is. Tucked in shirt. Tucked in shirt in a clinical way. You're walking around, you got nothing to say. You're all wrapped up in your little routine. You're the biggest cliche I've ever seen. Yeah, so that voice memo version, super different, kind of the same lyrics, but just different key and kind of like has a little bit more of like an R&B vibe to it. Anyway, took that, which I think the first line I wrote with my friend Chandler, who, if you're watching this, what up? And I made a little demo, a little pop demo about it, and that's what this is. Tucked in shirt in a clinical way. You're walking around, you got nothing to say. You're all wrapped up in your little routine. You're the biggest cliche I've ever seen. So, way slower, just a completely different vibe, but kind of cool, right? Like, songs can be really anything. They can be any genre. It just kind of depends on the instrumentation and stuff. Yeah, so there was that version. And then I kind of put the song away for a little bit. I was like, I don't know about this song. And then when I was trying to find stuff for Adeline to play live, this song just kept coming up. I just loved the melody. It was such a hook, such an earworm. I just had to put it in our live set, and it went really well whenever we would play it live, even though it's a little mean-spirited. Like, oh, well, we gotta have a diss track, right? Gotta have one diss track as a band. Here was the demo that I made for the other members of Adeline when we were first playing it back in like beginning of 2024, I think. Tucked in shirt in a clinical way. You walking around, you got nothing to say. You're all wrapped up in your little routine. You're the biggest cliche I've ever seen. So as you can hear, just a pop punk song, purely, that's all it is. The new version of it is basically that as well, but this one just leans into it way more, and it's also still in that original key. All right, cool. So there's that version, and now we get to when I started making the record. One thing that was important to me when we were tracking this record was I didn't really want to record to a metronome or a grid or anything. I took a School of Song class by Philip Weinrobe called Recording for the Singer-Songwriter, and he talks a little bit about hating metronomes. And I think they can be useful in certain circumstances, but I agree with him that it kind of locks you into this weird robotic time feel that doesn't necessarily feel natural or lend itself to human playing. So what we ended up doing actually was I would record a demo of the song, just guitar and vocal, and then Jared, our drummer, would come in, record over it, and then I would wipe my initial take and I would just play over Jared's drumming. So everything on this record, everything on this single is just basically played to Jared. But yeah, let's go through this session really quick. So all the drums we did at Brick by Brick Studios with John, and they sound incredible. All of the guitars, I used UAD's new amp modelers for them. I initially thought about recording all of the amps live, but I ultimately realized I wanted to have more control over the sound. So the initial guitar you first hear is the UAD Dream plugin. It's just a dry guitar running through that plugin, which is modeling a Fender Deluxe Reverb. That was kind of the clean sound that we went with for most of the record. The other guitar that comes in is basically like a Vox AC30. There's another buried guitar that's, you can't really hear it in the chorus. I like where it is in the mix. I think Alex did an awesome job where he put it in the mix, but I'll play that for you right now because it's a little subtler. Some other cool stuff in this song, the risers. So there's a riser that goes into every chorus. It was pretty important to me when we were making this stuff that we could just replicate it live, and we don't have a keyboard player, so I didn't want to put a bunch of keyboard stuff in the song that's not going to have keyboards live. So I got this new pedal last year when I first started recording the record. But what's really cool is this is the on switch, but this other guy kind of adds weird modulation filter effects to the sound. So what I ended up doing on a lot of this record was using that function to sort of have a riser effect. I suppose I should talk about what guitars were used for this record. Pretty much exclusively this guy, but I also used an SG. I think Steve Albini has a really good production trick that he talks about, where he says anytime you're doubling a guitar, make sure you use a different guitar or a different amp. That's something I didn't do for a really long time, and I think it helps so much. Just because if you don't do that, it does tend to get a little muddy. It does tend to get a little weird. So yeah, I would recommend doing that. Well, I don't really have anything else to say. Thanks for listening to the song, if you have. And hope you have a good rest of your day. Thanks for watching some of this.